Good afternoon. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Stevenson. I've got my good friend Joe Niola here joining me today. And over the course of the last few months, we've had a lot of Bernie Sanders volunteers. Now, we've got the primary coming up. Well, for you, it was 2 days ago. So you have the benefit of knowing how it ended up, the 5 primaries: Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Rhode Island, and Maryland. You have the benefit of 2020 hindsight. For us, it's not till tomorrow, because we're actually taping this on Monday. So we've had a lot of Bernie Sanders volunteers, people that had not been involved in politics other than in voting on Election Day during their lives. Some of them young, some of them middle-aged, some of them old, and of course Joe and I being the middle-aged ones.
Thanks, I appreciate that. That's nice to know.
But at any rate, so we're getting our postscript in on the elections on Tuesday, not knowing how the elections turned out on Tuesday. But we were talking about a question that was asked of Hillary Clinton in one of the debates about the money that she takes from hedge fund managers. And we're talking about the Simon family, $7 million. There's another family, another couple that have given $5 million, another couple that have given $4 million, and the list goes on. It's a ton of money. And Hillary Clinton, when asked about could she be tough on Wall Street after having taken all that money, she said, well, look back to 2008. President Obama got more money from Wall Street than any other candidate. And he certainly was tough on Wall Street.
Well, he certainly was. He also bailed them out when the entire thing did fall.
That was done before. That was done before he came into office. Yeah. But here's the thing: he got his Justice Department ended up getting Wall Street and wealthy people and the hedge funds and the banks to pay back. Let me reach into my soup bowl with my spoon, and if this soup bowl represents the money that they made illegally and the money that they made from pension funds and the money that they were given as a bailout by our government, if you take that as being that amount there, Justice Department forced them to dig into that amount of money and toss a couple, maybe almost a spoonful back in terms of fines. Yet,
the cost of doing business, you have to give up a teaspoonful of soup.
Cost of doing business. But here's the thing. She said that no hedge fund manager, no executive would be immune from prosecution. How many people were prosecuted, individuals were prosecuted? How many people went to jail through the Obama Justice Department's investigations?
I don't believe anyone went to jail.
Not a one.
Not one went to jail.
Not a one. So, in fact, they did force them to pay a little bit back in fines, but nobody went to jail. So I think that's a pretty good indication what would happen during a Clinton administration, is her Justice Department would follow that form. Form would follow function there, and they'd be paying a couple of little dribs of fines. But during the Bush administration, by contrast, and I don't like to say, I have a hard time saying much good about the Bush administration, but at least during his administration, a company known as Enron, which created a lot of wealth for themselves by buying energy on paper or electronically, and reselling it to themselves multiple times and then selling it. And every time they'd resell it to themselves, they'd, of course, add a VIG. They'd take a little extra profit margin added on. And they were caught that. And when Enron folded, because that deck of cards folded, at least Ken Lay and some of the other guys from Enron went to jail. They were prosecuted by the Bush administration. So credit is due on that. But during the Obama administration, and this is where Wall Street's put tons of money into candidates, election funds, nobody went to jail. Fines were paid, but nobody went to jail. Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, has stood strong and firm and true to the fact that the best way to get people to not break the law through their companies is to make individuals pay a price and go to jail and spend time in prison.
Well, I think there was an infraction on the part of Chase and
Jamie Dimon. Yep.
Yeah, in all arrogance. Fine me.
Yeah, fine me.
Yeah, don't bother me and don't tell me what I'm doing or not doing. Just fine me, okay?
Just send me the bill, and just send me the bill, and as long as it's a drib and a drab, we'll pay it, and then business will go on as usual.
Of course. Yeah, so there's a problem here. I was over the weekend. I was talking to someone in the entertainment industry, and he admitted to me, "Yeah, I get paid quite a nice amount of money for the speeches that I give. What's wrong with that?" Well, in his case, there's nothing wrong with that. In a politician's
case, a public figure, right?
There's a lot wrong with that because now you're subject to favors. I mean, this is not this is in order for them to campaign, they need money. 4 hours a day.
It's an investment, yeah.
They have to spend on the phone trying to raise money so they can stay in office because it's so costly to run a campaign. Hillary could use the excuse, listen, I'm raising all this money because I got to run a campaign. How is Bernie Sanders doing it?
In donations that average $27. And some people are chipping in 2 or 3 times, but to the tune of $2.5 million donations.
All right.
And she's got 1 million donations, but what they don't take into account are the PACs. Because Bernie Sanders clearly does not have a PAC. He's got groups that support him that have been out there hoofing it, doing work, and going door to door. Move On members, Democracy for America members, but he doesn't have a super PAC to buy advertising. And I've always contended that the media has made the decision, they made the decision early on that Clinton was their candidate because they get money through advertising. They've got bills to pay. They need to have revenue coming in through advertising.
They're in the establishment. They can't. They don't want it disrupted. Okay, the status quo is working for them. Someone like Bernie Sanders, he's a shit disturber. Nobody wants them. All right, these kinds of guys can create problems, interfere with the flow of the money. Okay, he's trying to divert the money. It's obvious that he's not their man, and I think he even said so in one of his speeches. It might have been one of his campaign promotional ads. So they'll find anything they can to try and undermine and dismiss his agenda. His proponents will say, yes, a lot of what he's saying is ideal, but it's idealism that what we should be striving for because we want to improve upon the status quo. The opponents will say it's unrealistic, it's not idealistic. You know, they will do anything they can to maintain the status quo, and it's just a constant struggle. And it so happens that the proponents of the status quo are also the ones with the big money. They're the ones that have allowed for campaigns and elections to be so costly, because by so doing, that enables them to control the entire process. And whatever industries, whether it be the media or what have you, that they can control in order to see to it that their agenda becomes the law of the land, they will do. So Bernie Sanders is an example of the populist struggle. And
the man with the ideals.
Yeah, and that whole thing on Israel, I don't know if you recall.
I certainly do, but I was not surprised at all because I know that Bernie Sanders believes in fairness.
He does.
And you have to, in order to negotiate, in order to step in, and Bill Clinton should know this better than anybody else because Bill Clinton and Senator George Mitchell were involved in the negotiating between the Irish and the Catholic Protestants, the Protestants and the Catholics. And you have to go to the table and conduct a negotiation where both sides are going to feel like they came out with something. Both sides feel like they got a fair deal.
Yeah, in other words, what he was critical of the Netanyahu government. He was not critical of the state of Israel.
Yeah, it's
all right.
And so, back then it was.
And you can't, and you don't equate the Netanyahu government with the state of Israel. There's a tremendous number of Israelis that would prefer to see a different prime minister other than Netanyahu.
Shout out to J Street because J Street is a great organization. It's the other side of the equation from AIPAC, which used to be the American Israeli Political Action Committee, but they took the Political Action Committee and changed it into something else because they didn't want to sound so political.
Right. Well,
but J Street is a great organization, and they understand that in order to negotiate a fair deal, in order to find peace, you have to negotiate. In order to negotiate, there has to be some fairness between Israel and the Palestinians.
Well, the Netanyahu government has no real desire to do anything other than simply maintain the status quo. In the not too far past,
Not too distant past, yeah.
We have distant past. We had a prime minister, Rabin. It's Yitzhak Rabin.
Yitzhak Rabin, who he was there when they negotiated the last peace treaty, I believe.
Well, yeah, there was another one too. I can't think of his name, but Rabin seemed to be the man that could make the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the assassination by a member of some right-wing organization in Israel, for that matter. And then the conclusion was Rabin is dead. The two-state solution is over.
Died along with him.
Well, what are you going to do? How long do you think you're going to keep these people in a state of colonization? It's just not. It's not going to work. There's got to be some kind of a solution that's going to satisfy both of them.
There has to be fairness.
Yeah, it has to be fairness. And don't get me wrong. All right, I am pro-Israel. I support Israel. I support Israel's need, okay, to be secure.
Likewise, I do.
I
Absolutely.
oppose rockets being fired from Gaza into Israeli territory. This is wrong. But by the same token, we still need to...
Shimon Peres. Roberto just, the cat told us too, but Roberto just sent along it was Shimon Peres.
Shimon
Peres was the one. Was another one that
he was definitely a peace advocate.
Yeah.
Shimon Peres has always taken into consideration
not to be confused with Roberto Perez.
No, with the Palestinian needs.
Yeah.
It's a struggle because the schools in Gaza paint the Israelis as evil, as oppressors, and what's happening is it breeds generations of militants.
You don't have to tell me that. I'm Irish. I was embarrassed to say I was Irish for most of my life until finally the two sides in the Irish conflict worked things out. And now I'm proud to be Irish. Thank you.
Well, if you're going to take the kind of approach that the Netanyahu government is taking now toward the Palestinians, nothing is going to occur except a feeling of aggression on the part of the Palestinians, and they may begin shooting the rockets again from Gaza, and Israel is going to go in and try to slow them down. The thing that Bernie indicated was that it was a disproportionate response on the part of Israel against against Gaza. What he was trying to say was that Israel, in its desire and need to defend itself, may have created more casualties than necessary. Mm-hmm. There's an expression. It's sometimes you have to go in and cut the grass. Mm-hmm. It's a very inhuman view, all right, of human beings. What's the word I'm looking for? To compare them to a blade of grass that you can cut down. And you just don't do that. There's got to be some way that Israel and the Palestinians could come to some kind of an agreement. And the very fact that Bernie Sanders has brought it up in the manner that he did was very reminiscent of Yitzhak Rabin, because he looked at it from a more liberal point of view. He looked at it from a more progressive point of view. The Netanyahu Likud government is a very conservative government.
They're regressive, certainly. They want to keep. They don't want anything that might be a gamble on their part, or that might make them look weak in the eyes of AIPAC, for instance.
Well, there's another example of how a politician's views can be skewed in order to help bring him down. Bernie Sanders is not against Israel. Bernie Sanders is not 100% in favor of the Netanyahu government. That's the reality.
Well, Netanyahu pretty much they beat up on Obama pretty badly. Matter of fact, he came and the Republicans invited him to come and speak before Congress, and of course he was critical. He was talking about the Iran deal, and again, you have to negotiate. You have to be willing to negotiate with your enemies in order to find a solution. You can't get your back up and refuse to negotiate with people.
No, because diplomacy in all actuality is truly the only recourse that we have. We can say and we can talk about a military response, but a military response is very self-damaging. Mm-hmm. All right? We may inflict harm on enemies, but we are also damaging ourselves. The ideal is to be able to cultivate and succeed in diplomacy. Yeah, if you have a Likud government in Israel and a Republican administration in the United States, everything is hunky-dory. If you have a Democratic, progressive government in the United States, okay, and a liberal government in Israel, everything seems to work out quite fine. But it seems as though if it's the other way around in any which way, mm-hmm. they're not going to be able to see eye to eye very well.
And as you say, the status quo continues.
Right.
And there's fighting back and forth, and there's killing back and forth, and that's to the detriment of everyone.
Right. There's a film called The Gatekeepers. Mm-hmm. and I'd seen it. I believe I'd seen it a long time ago. It was a little hard to get through because of all the subtitles.
Yeah.
But it's essentially, what do we got here from Roberto? Can you pick up on that?
Let's see.
What?
Human beings, one tree.
Are you telling us that we shouldn't, if we travel, we shouldn't stay at Doubletree?
No.
Okay.
Anyway.
So yeah. So
press on this one. Where were we?
So we've got our primaries, which for us are tomorrow, which for all of you were 2 days ago. All the folks watching this on either YouTube or.
Well, it's not a shoo-in for Hillary. I mean, and another thing too is come Rhode Island. I mean, it's a small state, but it looks like Bernie's going to take that one. There's a few other states besides.
We'll do well in every state, but
right.
But I don't think it's safe to say at this point that we'll have a route to catch her for pledged delegates. We'll do well in Oregon. Presuming we'll do fairly well in California because we're trending there, and caught and perhaps even passing her in California. But
if she doesn't have enough pledged delegates,
guarantee she won't.
She won't.
Yeah.
And then the superdelegates will all move in her direction.
Right, because she'll have presumably more pledged delegates.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the problem. This is a problem. In other words, she went into the convention. She didn't have a sufficient number of pledged delegates.
So they have to talk about the party platform, and that's where the candidate that only gets 45% of the delegates, as opposed to 55 or thereabouts. That's where we work to leverage our positions into the party platform.
Now, this is a point that you disagree with, but I just want to bring it up one more time. There is this investigation going on.
Yeah.
As far as Hillary is concerned, everybody seems to think that it's not even worth discussing because it's not going to turn into anything.
They've been looking at this for a very long time.
Well, you have to look at this kind of a thing for a very long time because you have a political machine that you want to take down. So when you hit, it's got to stick.
Right.
And in order to make that stick, they have to have an airtight case. The information that I had gotten is that there is a window. If they can't come up with it, and they can't come up with something that's going to stick before the end of the summer or by the summer, then we shouldn't even be talking about it, because if they do get it and they get it after the summer, it's not going to do them any good, because the rationale is going to be you tried to influence the election.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm not speaking on Hillary Clinton's behalf, but I'm speaking in point of fact, is that there are forces, there are powers that have been after the Clintons for decades. I mean, there are people that are convinced that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton killed 50 some odd people, either personally or
well, there's all kinds. That's conspiracy nonsense. I really think that's the case.
I think this matter with Benghazi and with these emails, I think I believe it just follows the same train of thought. It's not to defend her, but I think that they're as innocent as any other politician.
This is not Benghazi. The point that
the emails, I understand. Yeah.
Well, if monies were channeled into the Clinton Foundation through this private server, okay, and and there was some kind of quid pro that went on, you've got a case of bribery.
I honestly don't see it that way. I hear what you're saying. I understand your point of reference, but I think it's legally. I think it's really sketchy at best.
The fact that foreign money went into the foundation. Although it's not acceptable, it probably isn't enough, okay, to really taint her.
No,
But
it won't change anything.
if there was some kind of policies that were enacted around that time that benefited the country where these funds were coming from, she's got a problem. But maybe we're speculating.
I think it's a lot of speculation, and I think nothing will come of it, as it probably well should. And I don't think, it's a stretch to say that a country would be benefited, or to draw a connect link between a country being benefited by, especially by things that go through Congress, to be benefited in exchange for donations made to a foundation.
While she was Secretary of State.
Yeah, I understand, but I just don't. I don't see it. I think over the years that Bill and Hillary Clinton have been blasted very unfairly. That doesn't mean she's my candidate. Elizabeth Warren was and would be my candidate. That's the woman that should have been the first president in the United States. She chose not to run, and because of that, my backup candidate for president of the United States is the one that's closest to Elizabeth Warren, and that is Bernie Sanders.
Well, in policies, in views, with respect to the economy, the money problem, the money in politics, the entire that's all Elizabeth.
Absolutely,
so, it's all Elizabeth. And Bernie's that. Between the two of them, that's what they purport.
Absolutely, those they're on the same page on all these issues, and that made Bernie Sanders my candidate of choice from the moment he got in the race. I knew of him, I knew about him, I know his history, our history has come to pass.
Has it?
Because we have to.
Wrap it up.
We've got to wrap it up. Thank you, audience, for being with us. You don't know how the primaries are going to come out tomorrow. Thank you for video audience. You will know before we do, or you'll know something we don't know now, and that's how the primaries will end up tomorrow. And from that point on down the road to the final primaries, on to the convention. And I just hope I don't have to choose between Hillary Clinton, who I would definitely support over Donald Trump, but to have to choose between the two least trustworthy candidates in the election this year. Donald Trump, the least trustworthy, and Hillary Clinton, the second least trustworthy.
Well, let's not write Bernie off yet. It's still going on.
Let's keep on keeping on.